In this video we're going to look at using a buzzer, and we're also going to look at using loops inside of Arduino. So let's go to our component search for buzzer. We'll grab that over. I'll just turn that around. I'm not going to use a breadboard this time. It's a very simple circuit. So all I'll do is I'll connect up the ground to this leg, and I'll colour that black. And then I'll connect this leg to a pin. So we'll connect to pin because it's right to pin 9 because it's right near it. I'll leave that as green. And that's all the circuit we need for our buzzer. So of course you'd normally put this into a larger circuit connected to your breadboard with your other components, but basically all it needs is ground and an output pin to connect to it. Okay, so let's switch over to our code. We'll set a variable up there called buzzer, and we'll set that to pin 9. Interesting thing with the buzzer is you don't actually have to set up the pin to use the buzzer, so we'll skip straight past that. And we'll just use a function called tone. So whenever you want to set a tone, you can just use this tone function here. So you put the word tone, open the bracket, tell it which pin we're using. And the other thing we need to do is put in the hertz. So the hertz is just a number that tells it what tone it is. The higher the number, the higher the tone. The lower the number, the lower the tone. So I'll just put in 1000 for now. And there's one other thing that we need to put in for tone, and that's how long it's going to go in milliseconds. So I'll say I'll get you to buzz for half a second, and after that I'll need to put a delay in, and I'll make it a whole second. Then I'll explain what's going on here. So when we run this tone here, it'll set the sound that it's going to make and the duration that it'll make it for, but immediately it'll go on to the next line. So if I didn't have this delay here, the tone would just continually run, because it would set the tone, the loop would come back, it would set the tone, the loop would come back, set the tone, and it would just continually run. By putting a delay in there, this will make a buzz and then have silence, then a buzz and a silence. So you hear it going beep, 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 beep. And the reason why I've got 1000 here is because this delay will start running as soon as this line is run. So it will be running for half a second, so it'll be making a tone for half a second, and then for the second half of this second there will be silence. So let's run it and have a listen. Okay, so you can see it's buzzing, it'll be going, and then it'll be silent, and it's for the same amount of time. Okay, if I change this to 500, that delay is only going to last as long as the buzzer lasts. So you can see it just continually ran, because the second this gets called, it will be left to run independently of the rest of the code. So it will continue to run the code and keep doing what you want to do. So if I want to have it buzz for half a second and off for half a second, well, I need to have my delay for a whole second. Okay, in the previous video we looked at using loops, using a while loop. You'll see here that this loop function already built into Arduino is looping. It's continuing to run over and over and over and again, because that's what Arduinos always do. It's just built right into it. So rather than having a main function and then looping like we did in REPL, where we had our main function and then we had a loop, Arduino starts off with a loop. So we've got this main loop here which just gets run over and over and over again, but we can still put our own loops in here. So what we'll do is we will set up a loop, and for that we will want to have a count that we need to have running. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to keep track of the tone that we're going to put out. Okay, so I'll also make a variable up here, and we'll call it sound frequency. Okay, so let's go down here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the tone a number of times, and that's why I'm going to use a loop, but I'm going to change it each time. So to begin with, I'll set the sound frequency to be 500, and I'll set the count to 0, and then I'll ask the question, or check if this statement is true or false. Is count less than, how many times do we want to loop this? Let's do it 5 times. Now straight away, so I don't fall into this problem, I'm going to put my count plus plus at the bottom, so that'll add 1 to the count. Okay, so now I've got the 3 components of my while loop. I set a value, I'm checking the value, and I'm changing the value. Okay, so in here we can use that tone function again, and we're on the buzzer pin, and I'm going to use the sound frequency, and I'm going to play, let's just say for 200 milliseconds, and then I'll delay for that 200 plus another 200 before it plays again. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'll change the sound frequency. I'll make it go up by 500. So that should now play 5 sounds, and the sound should change every time it goes through the loop. So let's give that a run. Okay, so that seems to be running really well. Now I'll do another little loop so that it counts up like that and then just plays the same tone 4 times. So I'll make this a little bit longer, so I'll make that 400. And then what I'll do is I'll go down, I'll reset the count again to 0. And I'll just make this repeat 4 times. Now straight away I'll put in my count plus plus so I don't forget to do it and end up with an infinite loop. Oh yeah, and I'll have to set my sound frequency again to whatever I want it to be. And I'll make these ones go pretty quick, so let's just say 150 for each tone. I'll delay by 300. Okay, that's not quite in line, I'll just move that back a little bit. Okay, so let's give our code a run now. Okay, so it's all working the way we want. If you go online and have a look, you can actually use these buzzers to play songs. So you can put in a set of different sounds, so you can align them to different notes of the keyboard, for instance, and you could play an actual whole song using the buzzers as well if you wanted to do that as well. Okay, so that shows you how to use the buzzer. It's a very, very simple way to use a buzzer, and it also shows you how you can use while loops inside your main loop inside of Arduino.